And now to our first conversation. We see Nigeria has made significant strides in promoting financial inclusion, in recent years. However, despite these efforts, a substantial portion of the population remains excluded from formal financial services. So boosting financial inclusion is crucial for Nigeria's economic growth. And we're trying to get that $1 trillion economy. Now let's identify opportunities and examine strategies for promoting sustainable financial inclusion. And joining me for this conversation, TGIF is Sani Toluwalokwe, is the MD CEO, eTranzact PLC. Joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Good. It's good to be here.
Welcome. So definitely, seeing all that's played out in Nigeria's financial services industry, we've seen a lot of innovations. We've seen people do things that they couldn't do before. Like before you make a transaction, you have to go to the banking hall. But now, I don't remember when last I entered the banking hall. Everything is now electronic, but there's still issues at this point. So talk to me from your viewpoint. Where are we, and what are the opportunities?
Oh, interesting. With financial inclusion creates a lot of opportunities. Look, Nigeria is a very big country with people. Once you have a large size of people, with the size of Nigeria, then you have so many things to offer them. One of the great things here is financial inclusion, how to get the bulk of the citizens into the financial services ecosystem, to get them included, to do payments, to do savings, to do insurance, credit, all kinds of things that can drive entrepreneurship, drives SMEs, and drive the economy. Now, if you look at some of the things you talked about in terms of the transformation we've seen over time in terms of digital payments, it's crazy. We see that eTranzact on a daily basis, transaction growth, seamless payments, and one of the key drivers of this is the investment in technology that allows you to do some of these things seamless. And once you begin to build the trust and confidence in the ecosystem, that's one of the critical factors that will allow people that are excluded to become inclusive and do financial transactions.
Right, and definitely, we're all aiming and love the idea of a cashless system. But looking at the situation in Nigeria, it seems like the ATMs are they're not functioning anymore at this time. You go to some public ATMs, is all covered with dust at this point. So no cash there. And we see POS operators, we see that segment that's growing. They seem to have cash and they collect transaction fees for that, which is more expensive than if you were going to an ATM. So how much of that is a risk for financial inclusion, even though we want a cashless society?
It's not, I won't see it as a risk. It's an enabler. Look, you want to bring people that have never trusted brick and mortar financial institutions into the financial services ecosystem. And then you expect them to go to a complex machine looking like a robot they have no connection with. Meanwhile, you compare that with Mama BC, who has a POS, who sells fish, rice, and medicine, every other thing in that village ecosystem or that rural ecosystem. You see that person. Look, a research was done several years ago about Nigerians and currency. Our culture, I think the research was done in 2012. Our current culture, there is a need to touch currency. So that affects cashless in Nigeria significantly. And it also has to do with trust. Look, you owe me money, or I owe you money. You gave me money a while back, and I have to refund you. I want to look you in the eye as I refund you, so I'm giving you that money. So you don't want any situation where I tell you I've transferred it, you've not seen it, and then I'm like, dude, I've done this. Where is the money? So that trust is critical, and the convenience is critical. POS. There's a trust there because you see the person you're transacting with. Convenient. It's available every time. You can just walk across. You can even call, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 midnight. If you need money, you can call, the Babak Benga who's doing the POS thing. Please, I need 10,000 naira. I'm sending Bola, my daughter, to you. It's convenient. You trust the people. You see them. It's simple. So once you continue to invest in technology that simplifies the access and the equipment and the infrastructure you use to bring people into the digital space of payments. You got it.
So this technological future that we're looking at, there's no cash there.
Yeah.
No cash in that future.
There might be some cash. It's a process, because in the more advanced countries that have done a lot more digital payments, there's always cash. You know, you have the depending on the demography. But the reason why this is critical for Nigeria is I've seen some reports where the money in the formal sector is the money in the informal sector is almost about 80% the same size of the money in the formal sector, and that is not captured anywhere, informal trading. So if you think about it, you have 200 million Nigerians, you have 140 million specific, plus or minus some percentages, 140 million specific individuals with mobile phones. Those are people that have access to, that can have access to financial products. That's a big size there. How many of them are actually banked? Based on the BVN data, about 60, 65 million of that 140 million are banked. So you have another 65, 70 million out there in the space that are driving the informal economy. They're driving cash. Bring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million of that 70 million into the financial services ecosystem. I'll show you how to create $1 billion business.
$1 billion business.
$1 billion business.
I'm talking about $1 billion business. We've seen a couple of unicorns.
Yes.
Come out of Nigeria. Yeah. So we know the economic headwinds at this point. Yeah. I know inflation and currency devaluation must be a big, huge scare.
Absolutely.
For startups. At this time. So talk to me. How are you seeing fundraising? At this time for most of these startups? Is it getting harder, or are they meeting somewhere in the middle?
Well, it's a mix of both. Look, startups trade on the promise of the solution they've brought into the market space. So at some point, you have to deliver and realize those projections. Investors will always invest in good ideas. Experienced ones will invest in good ideas, but those ideas must come to reality. If they don't come to reality, over time, you create a bubble, everything busts. But you have to understand that in this part of the world, in Nigeria particularly, which is one of the reasons why I think our digital payments muscle is huge globally. It's felt globally. A lot of foreign investment has come into fintech in Nigeria. Fastest growing fintech ecosystem, in Africa. It's because we have created solutions that solve our problems. You just talked about you having to go to bank. Look at one of the products eTranzact created several years ago, a pay outlet for school fees. Before, you have to go to the branch of the university, where the university opened its account to pay. Then suddenly you can go to any branch of that bank, and then suddenly you can go to any bank. eTranzact transformed that space with our educational solution pay outlet, where anywhere, any branch, any bank, you can pay into University of Lagos account. So bringing those type of solutions together over time is what builds the confidence to help us deepen the digitization that we see. And in Nigeria particularly, we've created solutions that have solved our problems. If a solution is solving a problem, it's bankable. You'll get funding, easy. If a solution is not solving a problem and you're still trying to solve a problem, that's where you struggle. I think we have a mix of both, which is why, yes, you see some slowdown in funding, but then you also still see some deep, heavy hitters in funding. Nigeria is a very fertile ground for investment, and I can bet on it absolutely.
And I saw a recent report from Stairs, and it talked about private capital looking more towards equity than debt. So they would rather take equity in the company and put their funds forward. So is that a trend we're going to see going forward? That happened in Q3, from that report. So is it that investors just prefer equity at this point?
Well, investors will always prefer equity because it's upside. Equity is full upside. And debt is always cheaper than equity because debt, you take the debt, you pay the interest, you pay it back. All the value created goes to the equity holders. That's the sweet thing about equity, and once you have equity, you're in it for life, especially if it's a bankable project. Once you've invested in equity, you own that, you own the size of that business as long as that business continues to deliver. So I think it's a trend that has been around. It's more, I think people are talking a lot more about it because debt interest has gone haywire globally. In Nigeria, I'm hearing 40% to take loans.
And we have another rate setting meeting that's coming up next week. Consensus is we might see another hike, going forward. But, talk to me about, you're a listed company at this time. And, definitely investors would like to know the financial health of the company. Q3, results flying all over the place. How was it for you?
Blown away numbers. Look, consistently for the past 16 quarters, eTranzact has exceeded its expectations. We started our transformation journey in 2019. We revamped our strategy, focusing on switching as an infrastructure, merchant marketplace, merchant activity, and then the direct-to-consumer, which is our financial inclusion business and our digital bank. So if you look at all of that, we are a switch, a central infrastructure, a backbone for the industry. And we're leveraging that to build merchant acquiring activity, and we're also leveraging that to transform the financial inclusion space. We're leveraging that to build our digital bank, creating several features for, a good demographic of Nigerians to do financial transactions.
So somehow you're not affected by most of these headwinds.
Well,
currency devaluation.
Look, it's just like the food business. Funeral, people eat. Naming ceremony, people eat. Wedding, people eat. It's same thing as payments. Every time you're making a payment, you could reduce the frequency or increase the value, but at every point in time, you're making payments.
Right.
We are a switching infrastructure. We sit at the back end of all the debits and credits and all the settlement positions. So eTranzact will always be rich.
All right. Thank you so much. And definitely looking forward to more inclusion right here in Nigeria when it comes to financial inclusion. Thank you so much. It was great having your perspective, Mr. Nee Toluwalope, the MD CEO, eTranzact PLC. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks, buddy. All the best.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, more conversations there. I'm sure you've been hearing about Fund It Forward. We're going to hear more right after this break.